Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the GioMoShow on 88.3 FM WXOU. I'm Giovanni Mosher, your sports media director here at WXOU, and I am joined here on the couch with another member of our Oakland University sports world here. Today, we're going to be exploring for the first time the club sports world. Now, I shouldn't say the first time. I've covered it a little bit on my show here and there, but we're going to go deep into it today. And who better to get on the show for that than the Sports and Recreation Program Coordinator of University Recreation and Well-Being, Kyle Reece. How you doing, Kyle?
Good. Thank y'all for having me, man. Appreciate it.
I'm very excited to get to know you and get to know the world of club sports. So very appreciate you coming in down here in the basement.
Appreciate you, man.
So I want to get started here on my interviews. I'm just as much interested in the person as I am the sport. So I want to start with you and your background. Where did you, we'll go way back in the beginning. where did
Beginning
you
of time. Yeah.
I got plenty of time here. So where did you get your love of sports? How did you get into that world?
Oh man. Well, shoot, we are going back.
Oh yeah.
So I think it started for me. I grew up playing sports all the time. I had, a grandfather who played at Purdue as a football player. I had cousins who played just about everything. And so, when I started young, I loved playing baseball. And then eventually I got into youth football, a little later than most, but I got into youth football, and then that continued on to the high school world. I loved playing intramurals when I got to college because I was like, well, it's something to do. And I'm not from where I went to school. I went to school in Kentucky, and I'm from Indiana. So,
Okay. So you've been a little bit around the horizon lately.
Yeah, man, that is the biggest understatement. I went from Kentucky to Texas for grad school, then to Boston for my job at a small Division III school called Curry College.
Okay.
Got to work with some amazing people there, but yeah, small, tiny school. I was talking like 2,200 kids. So, and then from there, I went back to Kentucky at my alma mater, was there for a couple years, and then I came to Michigan in March. So I've been... Yeah, that is an understatement. I've been all over since I graduated at 22 years old. So
for you having your career in your, I guess I should say professional career in the sports world, was that always something that you wanted to do, going through like high school and kind of growing up? Or I'm just curious how you selected kind of that career path?
Yeah, so I always wanted to stay in sports because that was something I was really passionate about. I originally wanted to be a sports agent, and then I wanted to work for Sports Illustrated as a journalist, but if you know anything about the journalism world, it is a tough business.
Oh,
to
yeah.
get into. Very tough business. So I went back to sports agent, and I was like, I don't know, man. I had to go to law school, and that doesn't sound any fun. Mm-hmm. So I took a big look at what I liked to do at that point, and I think it was my junior, right as my junior year was getting ready to end, and I was like, what do I like to do? And I at the time was a intramural supervisor. I was an intramural referee. And shout out to my former boss, Greg Korak. He really steered me in the right direction to what I do now. And, he got me the opportunity to go get my master's paid for in Texas. And from there, I've gotten to see a large portion of this country, for better or worse. Those drives, those cross-country drives were not fun.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I've always wanted to work in sports in some way. Did I think it was going to be this way? No. I thought I was going to be doing something with professional sports, but I'm very, very happy with where I ended up.
So getting all that experience, all that kind of cross-country experience, and bringing it to Oakland at University Recreation and Well-Being, it's a mouthful, but we love the title.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, you do.
So bringing all that experience here, how has that prepared you for the position you're in right now?
So I think I'm one of only two members on the staff who aren't from Michigan. A lot of our staff has, kind of been around in different places, but I think it's me and one other that are not originally from the state of Michigan. So I've seen a lot of different things, right? How they do things in Texas, how they do things in New England, how they do things kind of in that Mid-South area, Kentucky, Tennessee. And I think bringing that to Oakland has now opened the eyes to, all right, this conventional style of sports. So everybody thinks of the footballs, the basketballs, the soccers being the sport that, that's intramurals, and that's what club sports are. And to a certain degree, they're right. But I think now when you look at where our, student demographic is, what our students want to do, you kind of have to kind of change up your mindset, right? So seeing what they love to do in New England, right? They love hockey, and they love lacrosse. Now, granted, lacrosse is a little different. I haven't gotten there. I haven't got that yet here. But in Texas, they love their football, but they also really love their softball. Like, it is a competitive environment.
No kidding.
And then, in the Mid-South in Kentucky, it's a basketball school, but they also love video games. They also love a weird game, a card game that I kind of lost the name to. It's not euchre. I don't know how to play euchre because I know that's a big thing up here.
Yeah.
But, I haven't. We're trying to figure out new ways of what students want to get them involved, both from our intramural side as well as our club sports side. Right, and if you look at our club sports, you see everything from ballroom dance to club football to women's volleyball to ice hockeys and kind of everything in between. Right,
Ice
we have
hockey's plural, yeah.
2 ice hockey teams. Yeah, you say the plural. But we also have table tennis. We've got our vitality dance, which is more jazz and hip hop, and like I said, everything in between. Because if we have students involved, that means they want to stay and be involved in this Oakland community, which I have found to be amazing. So Michigan's been good to me, even though it's like 60 degrees outside right now.
Yeah.
In June.
The summers are a bit inconsistent here.
Yes, they are.
So that's always something I'm very curious about because for me, like I'm from Michigan. I'm 30 minutes east in Macomb, and I've never gone any farther west than Kalamazoo. So for me, I'm very local, very Michigan. So for you, who's been around so many different places, what's it like being like displaced from one to another, like moving to a new place? Because I haven't experienced that.
Yeah, so I would challenge everybody to do it at least once in their life, right? Like I had awesome experience in Texas, living with 2 roommates. One was from Kansas, the other was from in Texas, but several hours away. And then I met someone who was from Ohio, who I actually get to see every summer now because he's from Toledo.
Yeah.
And then being out in the Northeast, it gets a little lonely. Those winters are long and they are brutal. I remember waking up one time and it was like 19 inches of snow, and that was like in a 7-hour time span. I was like, what just happened? But it's really taught me a lot about myself, and I've learned a lot about myself. I moved closer to the Midwest because I wanted to be back home closer to my family. But I would challenge everybody to do it at least once because it's been a really cool experience for me. I've gotten to live in Houston. I've gotten to, go to Boston. I've done some cool stuff in Kentucky, right? I got to see where Lincoln was born. And then, up here in Michigan, I'm still trying to point on my hand where I'm from because that's something y'all do. And I've tried the Superman ice cream. It's really good. But,
Trying to get the habit.
Yeah, but I've learned a lot about myself, and I've learned a lot about, resiliency and, in those tough moments where you don't know anybody in a state and you don't know anybody near you in a state, how to, get out of your comfort zone and kind of do something, yourself. So, and I think that pays dividends to what I do now because a lot of my job is doing things that are a little unconventional.
Yeah, unconventional for sure. Before we get back to the show, let me tell you about Bart's Pizza. Bart Basilico reinvented his father's pizzeria business by putting it on wheels. I'm talking a pizza food truck, baby. Bart and his wife Lauren travel all around Metro Detroit, cooking up homemade pies made fresh to order in their 4-layered pizza oven on wheels. You can find them on their website at eatbartspizza.com and Facebook and Instagram as well at Bart's Pizza. His last name is literally Basil, so you know he knows what he's doing. Make sure to grab a cannoli as well while you're there. Bart's Pizza, it's too good.
Yo, I'm Jake Masucci from Jake's Takes. I wanted to talk a little bit about my show on my guy Giovanni's own show. And I wanted to talk about a little bit about Jake's Takes. I'm a student manager at Oakland University, and I kind of just talk all things sports. I talk a lot about the NBA, talk a little college basketball. We did a lot of March Madness stuff recently. We talked about NBA playoffs, NFL playoffs, talked a lot about the NFL draft. It's basically just an all things sports show. I really think you guys would enjoy it. And shout out to my guy Giovanni. Love him. But please check out Jake's Takes. It's available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and then it's also available on its own YouTube channel. So please check out Jake's Takes, but please continue enjoying Giovanni's show.
So I want to move on to more of the club sports and more of the RecWell sports world of things. So for those who have no idea what I'm talking about, have no idea who this guy is here, at a very basic level, like what are club sports and RecWell sports, and what are they all about?
So RecWell sports oftentimes gets referred to as intramurals, right? But intramurals used to be a very popular term, but since COVID, this generation comes in, they don't really know what IMs are, right? Like the group that did know what they were graduated already, right? So intramural sports are the sports where, you grab a group of friends or you sign up as a free agent and you go out and you just play, right? The most you're going to get is a t-shirt, which I design. I think they're pretty cool.
Nice.
But But yeah, so that's kind of the stitch of that. We've got everything. We'll have fantasy bachelorette this year again. We had that last year. It was very, very popular. But we have our flag footballs. We've got our basketballs. We've got all the traditional things. But we also have a cooking competition. Stuff that's maybe wasn't considered a sport in the past, definitely we consider now.
So it's anything kind of competitive.
Yeah, anything I can think is competitive, I'm gonna make it. We tried a karaoke night, and the winner of who got the most votes was also gonna, that was gonna be an intramural sport at one point.
Like American Idol.
Yeah, like American Idol, more or less. Yes, like American Idol. But our club sports, you take that up a notch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our club sports compete regionally, nationally, some cases internationally. And they're competing against other schools across the country and sometimes the world. I know Lauren LeClaire, former president of Equestrian, which is our horse riding team, she qualified for the international competition in Lexington. So she made us all proud and went down there and I heard did very, very well. So I know our club football team is going to compete against Ohio State this year. I think Ohio State is coming here this year.
Nice.
They've won 2 national titles. D3 hockey, who went to nationals in Boston in March, they beat Florida Gulf Coast, which doesn't seem like a school that would have hockey. Their campus is on a beach. Kid you not? So it's that more competitive aspect. I'd say it's a step down from varsity athletics, and our club sports athletes definitely practice and work just as hard as I would argue our varsity athletes. They do a great job, but I think our club athletes deserve a little bit of credit too.
Definitely. And that, part of the reason why I have you on here, I'm trying to get some more club sports on WXOU here. We're making a push to get some club sports on the air.
You pick the right club, they'll talk your ear off, man. You care what you say.
So, getting more to the specifics of it, we mentioned that there's plural hockey teams. There's D3 and there's
D1 as well.
And D3 and D1. Is that the ACHA?
Yes, it is. It's the ACHA. So a long time ago, long before I was here, we had Division II and Division III hockey team. D2 decided, you know what, we're going D1. And our director at the time was like, "Are you sure?" And then they went out and won a national championship. So yeah, they were pretty sure. So we have multiple hockey teams. We've got a men's and women's volleyball team, and like I said, we even get a little crazy with the dance teams, who are very competitive and very good as well.
Right. So all these for those who are still a little bit lost here. For club sports, like all of them have like their own league and their own structure for playoffs and divisions and stuff like that. I remember I have an article on WXLU.org you could check out about more specifically about the club football team, the NCFA, the National Club Football Association. They have multiple divisions and playoff rules and all that. These club sports, they go a lot deeper than people would think.
It's definitely not something where you just sign up, you just hang around and you play, catch with your friends if we're talking football or baseball, right? Baseball, they compete in the NCBA and we're the #1 ranked team in the country. I mean, all of America. I think the #2 team was Maine at the time, and I know Army or Navy was thrown in there, and I know our friends up in Saginaw were also in the top 10 at that time as well. And the NCBA has divisions 1, 2, and 3. Hockey's got 1, 2, and 3. Football has, I think, several divisions within a division. They get really complicated. Cheer, is part of UCA. I hope I got that right. Please don't be mad at me if y'all see this and I'm wrong. But yeah, they go to Florida every year, just like all the other colleges do. But they have a club club division within themselves too. So yeah, it's not just a show up and you just throw football around with your friends. I mean, they are practicing 2-3 times a week. This summer when August hits, they'll go 4 times a week in all that heat. So I mean, they're working very, very hard to bring Oakland a championship. So I mean, these athletes, I give it off to them because a lot of this is funded on their own. That's the other big difference between the NCAA and varsity sports and club sports. A lot of this is self-funded. So when you talk about clubs traveling to Lexington, Kentucky for an international, or Pittsburgh. I know our ballroom team went there last year when I first started. And I mean, a lot of that is self-funded. They're paying their own gas. They're paying for their own hotels at times. And I just give a very small percentage of money. So I know our D3 hockey team, their bus, I think invoice was well over 10 grand. So, and I can only help with a small part of that. So you look at these athletes and the amount of time, effort, and dedication, both financially and mentally, is something that I think should be quite rewarded and quite a showcase because they are working their rear ends off.
Definitely. So from your end, from the coordinator standpoint of it, what are your responsibilities in kind of your day to day managing over 30 club teams and many RecWell teams? So what are your responsibilities in this?
So every day, that's why I like working what I do, because no day is the same. Every day is like kind of a surprise. But for me, it's, how can I be as supportive as I can? That starts all the way back in August where we have our e-board meeting. And it's not just setting them up to be a good president of a club or a good vice president of a club, but it's also like creating habits that they can take when they leave Oakland so that we're developing them to be not only just good leaders, but like good people.
Yeah.
So for me, the day starts out with, the email check. If I got anything overnight, if there were any issues from the previous night for practicing, because we use pretty much every amount of space we have for our club sports, between whether it's, both of our studios, all the fields at the REOC, or our basketball courts. We're using all of them. So were there any issues last night? Okay, cool. What do I need to buy? My mom says I am basically their parent. I'm just kind of their wallet, which, they view me. Hopefully they view me a little better than that, but it is true. I try to help them. I keep track of their finances, both from the student fund, the university funded aspect, as well as their own money that they have with us. I get the hotels ready to go. If there's travel arrangements, I try to make those as well. I work with my current staff that I have of students. If we're hosting a game, what does that team need from us in order to be successful, right? So whether that's getting the scoreboard ready at the REOC for football or soccer games, to moving those freaking uprights that weigh 8 million pounds, we do that as well. And then providing just support throughout the game, whether that's first aid, CP, all that good business for both our team and our guests from wherever they're coming from. So it's a big endeavor. It's like I said, I'm never not busy.
Yeah.
Once our August hits, I don't see the light until pretty much April when we graduate, and then it's 3 months to get ready for that 100-mile-an-hour race at a sprinter's pace. Come August. So I wouldn't trade it for the world, though. I love it. And I do want to say I have three great program assistants that are going to be helping me out this year, that are going to make my life 100 times easier while developing them to be good leaders as well.
Oh, I'm glad to see you're not bored.
No, I'm definitely not bored. I wish I had more time in the day. Like, people like, don't you wish you were like busy? I was like, I'm way too busy now.
I know what it's like. Yeah.
So yeah.
So I've talked to I got friends in club sports. My friends on the men's lacrosse team, a baseball team, and they kind of tell me that a lot of them there are some coaching hires. I know football has their coaching staff and all that kind of stuff, but at least the club baseball team, I've been told, is more or less self-coached. So for that aspect, how do you think that puts a twist on club sports when they're more self-coached?
Yeah, so I think for those, that's a unique challenge, right? Because you're playing the sport with your friends, and yet you're going to have to like potentially boss them around and tell them, hey, you can't play, hey, you can't travel. And I think that takes a huge amount of responsibility and earning that respect amongst your peers, and that's something that is very, very unique to club sports in the sense, because like you said, football's got coaches. Our women's rugby team has to have a coach per their national governing body. It's a legality issue. But yeah, a majority of our sports are self-coached. So it's bringing in those people that you can trust. I know our e-board members, we have a lot of really, really good ones now, especially good ones moving in this fall. But it's a lot of trust and a lot of responsibility on them. And then I try to be the mediator if there's any issues, because we have had issues where it's like, someone doesn't like the decisions of the president for this reason or that reason. And I try to be the mediator and try to, explain to these people like, hey, like they had to take this into account, and this into account before they even thought about a decision.
Yeah. You show them that long list that goes all
it's
the
like,
to
it's
the
like
floor
the scroll that just keeps going in those movies. Yeah. So, I try to put that into perspective, and then that kind of is like, oh, okay. Yeah. It opens that door and opens, I guess it flips that switch, but I would say for sure I do not envy those people because they have a lot of tough decisions to make. I know for our women's volleyball team, Lainey, who has since graduated, she had to make, I think, like 20 cuts.
Wow.
Which has never happened before with it, she said. So at least in her time, in her 4 years. So the fact that you're like telling 20 plus girls to say, hey, like we really appreciate you, but you can't play, is a tough thing to do, and
Oh,
it,
yeah.
it takes a lot of responsibility and a lot of, I guess, guts, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
So, I don't envy them, but I think they all do a pretty great job, for sure.
So, in your perspective for club sports and intramural sports as a whole, you mentioned that COVID kind of took a big hit, and a lot of people aren't like super aware of what they are and what they offer. So, what would you say is the biggest challenge facing club and intramural sports?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing right now, I think, especially from the club sports side, is the rebuilding piece. Some of our clubs weathered the storm through COVID, but some of them didn't. Right? Like I know our rugby team, our women's rugby team, I know they went through a lot, and thankfully they're in a much better place now. Football couldn't have any contact in what is a all contact sport.
Yeah.
So it's weathering that storm and just educating these classes coming into what exactly they are, whether it is a club sport or whether it is our RecWell sports. It's educating from what they are, because this group spent a lot of their formative years on a computer screen. So it's, getting, explaining what we do, and then encouraging them to come and support these people. Like these are their classmates. These are the people that they're going to see around campus who are representing Oakland University. It says Oakland across that jersey, no matter what. So I think for me, it's one, educating them on what they are, giving them the opportunity to do it, and then encouraging them to come support their classmates in representing a university they go to. So I think those are kind of the two biggest things from a club sports standpoint that I think are our biggest hurdle is really that education piece. And we're doing a really great job. We saw numbers go up from the past couple years before I was here, but that's always the fight, right? Like getting more people to sign up, because there's never a bad thing as too many people.
Right. So, and I guess to kind of further that education piece, for me, like I always see like on Instagram, club football, oh, they got a game today, they got this stuff and that stuff, but not a lot of teams like don't kind of struggle with the viewer attendance kind of stuff, getting people in the stands and stuff, because I don't think, at least in my a general perspective, you don't think of like, oh, club sports, you don't think to go watch them. You know what I mean? So, and that is a shame, like from what we've been talking about, how hard they work and all the management that goes into it. So for other sports, let's say, like obviously for football, you got the stands around the upper fields there. But for other sports like women's volleyball or other sports like that, like how could students go watch them or go be in the crowd?
Yeah, so I think it starts with our social media. Emily, who I work with, is phenomenal, and that's going to be a big push this year. We've also got a campaign going right now within ourselves called Athletes Supporting Athletes, where clubs are required to go to at least one other game this year. And if they bring guests, they get extra points towards their eventual allocation moving forward, which is a whole other. We need a whole other show for that explanation. But I think it's being out there, being visible. And I think it's one, having the opportunity to have them host. Women's volleyball, you said, for instance, hasn't hosted a tournament here in, I can conservatively say, probably about 5 years.
Wow.
So it's just, it's unfortunate that we only have 3 basketball courts, because we like to keep one open for other people and all of our other, patrons, but they need 3 full courts, right? So, and I think we've got some things in place that will hopefully, we can give them an opportunity to do so. But ballroom, it's the space at Oakland University to host that type of thing, where there's a ballroom type aspect that's big enough to host everybody, because it's a large event. Same thing with baseball. I think bringing their games back on campus, and I think that is a goal of mine, will help, students say, oh, somebody's playing baseball right now, I'm going to go watch. Trust me, I see those kids on that hill all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And I think, are they not worried they're going to fall down head first and just tumble the whole way and run into that gate? But, I think, partnering with you all is going to be huge. Partnering with, our other campus partners here at Oakland University will only pay dividends for us, because you all reach an audience that we may not reach, but we also might reach an audience that you might not reach. So I think partnering and working together, because that's the ultimate goal, I think is what's really going to help us, take it to that next level, so these students can go support their classmates and their friends.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Very appreciative of let's say the mutual help.
Yes, the mutual help. We're going to help each other. It's like, what is Jerry Maguire? Help me, help you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for one last bit, I'm going to give you the floor. We've been talking all about club sports and promoting them and highlighting all the work that they do. But for one last bit, for those who aren't familiar, sell them on club and intramural sports.
Well, one, it's free, so you don't got to pay to go, right? But when you think about club sports, these are athletes too. These people work incredibly hard throughout the week. Ballroom practiced over 400 hours themselves last year, which is an insane number for a varsity athlete, let alone a student who is also doing this while a part-time job, while going to class. I mean, that is an immense amount of work and an immense amount of dedication. And it is an incredibly welcoming atmosphere. I think our presidents that we have now are incredibly welcoming and incredibly inviting. All the teams are looking for people, except for maybe hockey. You got to know how to skate for that. So you might want to look into that before you try to join. But these are your friends. These are your classmates. These are the people that work incredibly hard day in and day out to go and represent Oakland. Like I said, football has won 2 national championships. The 2 hockey teams, I think, have won 3 collectively between them. They are working incredibly hard, and I think they need to be rewarded. I think they need to be supported, not only by my office and my staff, but also by Oakland University, because that's exactly what they are. They are Oakland University just as much as our varsity teams are, and I think they should be absolutely supported just like they are, just like our varsity teams are.
Well, thank you very much. Kyle Reece, the Sports and Recreation Program Coordinator at the University of Recreation and Wellbeing. Thank you so much for coming out to the Joe Show. It's been an absolute pleasure digging into the world of club sports, and you got me pretty hyped.
Hey,
I'm not going to lie.
Hey, listen, I can give a heck of a speech, so just let me know when you want me.
That's wonderful. So you can catch the Joe Show Thursdays at 6 live on WXOU, or you can find it later at your own convenience on Spotify and YouTube. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next week. That was awesome.
Appreciate it.